Okay, and with that, it is 1 o'clock and it's time to get started. So pardon me while I get the last of my cough drop out of my mouth. So hello, those of you who I have not met previously. I'm Andrew, I'm one of the educators here. I'll be leading this webinar. The other two faceless education team members on the call are Donna and Kelly, who are going to be helping out.
Let's try to do the staff photo.
Good luck. So today is our What's New webinar, the first of two, where we're going to hit highlights of the 1905 upgrade from across all of the different modules. Before we dive into that, let me share my screen and move some stuff out the way. Over on our Bywater website, we do have a post up of our full 1905 Koha upgrade webinar schedule. You probably saw this site because this is probably where you came to get registered for this very webinar. But this does have the full schedule of all our upcoming webinars. We're doing each of these sections twice, so hopefully you can find one you can get to. Along with the schedule for each of them, there is a link to the agenda for each webinar so you can see what it's going to entail and figure out what's most useful to you. All of these webinars are going to get recorded. We are recording right now as we speak. And those recordings will go up on YouTube and on our blog, along with the print notes of all of our questions that we take during chat and any other questions that come up during the webinar. So if you aren't able to make it to some of these or you just need something to refer back to later, that will all be here. There is also on the blog a site for 1905 upgrade notes that includes the full release notes from the Koha community, also all of our blog posts and videos we've already made about things that we think are particularly interesting in 1905, and then some even further broken down list of topics and links off to bugs if you really want to dig into all the little back ends of 1905. A couple quick Zoom housekeeping things. I mentioned this earlier, but right now you're all in Zoom without microphone access, so we won't be able to hear you if you talk. You can send us questions through the Zoom webinar chat. If you're in the chat, make sure that you are sending your chat to everyone, not just to the panelists. If it's addressed to just the panelists, then I can see your question and Donna and Kelly can, but nobody else can. Then that can get a little confusing. There is also a Q&A tool in Zoom that you can use to ask questions that everyone will be able to see. It's a little bit easier for us to keep track of, but yeah, questions either place, just let us know. I know there's a mechanism in Zoom to raise your hand, and that's not always very apparent when somebody has done so. I think George just raised his hand.
We've got lots of questions already. Hold on.
It's good. That's why Kelly and Donna are here.
Did we post the schedule for today's topics? Yep.
Yeah, that is back on that upgrade webinar schedule page. Underneath the 2 times for what's new is the what's new agenda.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yep. As we move toward actual upgrades, those are going to start in December and go throughout the month. A few days before your upgrade, you'll get a nice little note on your Koha homepage telling you when your upgrade will happen. There's not a lot you need to do for that upgrade. You just need to remember to clear your browser cache the morning after your upgrade happens. I know we've got some early adopters in the crowd. Hello, early adopters, and thank you for being early adopters. They're going to get upgraded to 1905, I think, starting next week. Yeah, because that's how the calendar works. So that'll be good, and we'll get some good feedback from there. But yeah, same deal for all you early adopters. You should know your dates already or will know them soon, and just remember to clear your cache. All right, with that, I'm going to dive into our 1905 What's New topics. And I'm going to start with circulation. So go to the staff client, make this a little bigger and a little bigger so you can all see it a bit. And actually, I know I said I'm going into circulation, but the first thing I want to look at is not here. It is actually in administration. And this is, if you're following along in your scorecard, bug number 20912, rental fees based on time period. So we don't have a ton of partners that use rental fees, but definitely some do. Previously, in our item type setup, we only were able to define one rental fee, and it was a daily rental fee. Now we can set separate daily and hourly rental fees. So if you have, well, let's pick something someone might charge for. I don't know, games. If you have some games, oh, and look, there's a chart there, where you rent them out by the hour and you want to charge an hourly rated rental fee, you can enter that here and it'll charge 50 cents an hour. Or if you have a rule set up that charges them daily, as we do on DVDs, that'll charge daily. The unit that it uses for those rental fees is set up over in your Circ and Find rules. As with most other things in Circ and Find rules, when we set up that rule, we set a unit of days or hours. So now Koha is storing both of those rental fee increments, and it will know based on the unit you pick here, whether to charge that in days or hours. This is a development that was sponsored by our friends at the Huntsville-Madison County Public Library. I know I've seen Marty, at least in the chat already. So thank them for that. And hopefully this should be a lot of help to folks, give us a little more flexibility. The next thing I want to go to is bug 7088, which adds the ability to renew items on hold with an override. So we all know that our Circ staff has a lot of cause to override things, to check something out where otherwise Koha wouldn't allow it, or to renew something where otherwise Koha wouldn't allow it, because that's how libraries work. There's some fuzziness to all of our rules. However, prior to 1905, Koha had a really hard limit there on renewing anything that had a hold on it. It just wouldn't let that happen, period. There was no way to override it. But in 1905, we now have the ability, if we turn on the Allow Renewal on Hold Override System preference. So that was a long one. Allow Renewal on Hold Override. If we tell Koha we want to be able to do this override, ta-da, it will let any staff member who has permission, when they go to renew something, it'll let them do that renewal even if somebody else already has a hold. There are a couple ways to see this. One is just from this renew link here. So if we're not in a patron account, we put in a barcode of an item that we know is checked out. We're getting a new exciting error message. I shouldn't call that an error message, a circulation alert, letting us know there is a hold on this item, but it's giving us the option to override and renew. Also gives us a little due date box here. If I don't put anything in that box, it's going to go ahead and use the normal renewal period, but it does give me the opportunity to say, okay, because there's somebody on hold, let's do a special thing and only give them a few days. We can also see this renewal from the patron record. Pull up a patron. Every time I see a patron in one of our test databases, I think I should probably figure out where that name came from. It's probably somebody. But I don't know who Kate Shujak is. She's from the Park, Arkansas. I'll just wait for someone to tell me. Someone in the audience knows and is excited. But if I look at Kate's checkouts, Both of these are on hold, so it's telling me I have no renewals. But just like with a patron who had hit their renewal limit, if I want to break the renewal rules, I come down here and say, override renewal. That gives me my little checky boxes up here. So I can say, I really do want to renew this one, even though the rules say I shouldn't be able to. And again, I can specify a due date if I want to. Otherwise, it's just going to use the normal renewal period. So exciting new flexibility if you want it, if you turn on that system preference to allow an override when an item is on hold. All right, my next exciting circulation thing is going to take me back to administration and our system preferences. And this is update item location on Checkin. So this is a new system preference that allows us to define sets of shelving location pairs and say, whenever something is set to shelving location X and it gets checked in, change that to shelving location Y. So that could be anytime we have something set to shelving location display, which do better than me at your typing. Spelling matters a lot for these system preferences. Every time something that is display gets checked in, set it to fiction. Or every time anything at all gets checked in, set it to cart. Cart is very important here. If you've been using the return to shelving cart or in processing to shelving cart system preferences, and a lot of our partners do, that's what allows Koha to say, whenever I check something in, it goes to shelving cart for its shelving location for some period of time. If you've been using return to shelving cart or in processing to shelving cart, those system preferences have gone away. They have been taken over by this new system preference. So update item location on Checkin lets us do a whole bunch of stuff. It's much more flexible, and it is also handling the shelving cart and processing to shelving cart setups now.
Andrew, a question has come into our Q&A box,
Yeah.
or a chat box, sorry. Do these follow authorized values for location?
Yeah, they do. That's a good question. So yes, like display to fic, I would need to have in my authorized values set up an authorized shelving location value of display and another one of fic. It would be using the coded values out of your authorized values for shelving location rather than your display values.
Oh, let's show them the new authorized value look.
Sure. I don't know that this made it onto our what's new agenda, but in admin,
Sorry, we're going off the agenda for just a hot minute.
oh dang, under authorized values, we have had a little redesign here to make this a little more readable, including some nice descriptions of what all these different mysterious authorized values are. I'm a little sad because husband frequency was such a good joke, and now it's very clearly labeled as housebound frequency. Oh well, I guess.
I'm glad I'm not doing one.
But yeah, let's find shelving location in here. So as you're setting up the pairs for your authorized value, or for your update item location system preference, you'll be using these authorized value codes for those shelving locations.
Oh, you didn't think you'd get out of this quick, did you, Andrew? This is a good one.
Is there an option to have items revert to their original location after being on display? Unfortunately, no. You can set, a definite code to say, if it's at display, go to this one value, but there is not any mechanism in there to save what that item was before it went to display, so it can then revert to that after. I know that that is something a lot of libraries use course reserves for as sort of a workaround. I should say public libraries that aren't otherwise using course reserves. I think we have a blog post about how to set that up.
Yes, we do. I will link that, Andrew.
Thanks. If you have been using return to shelving cart or in processing to shelving cart, if those system preferences had been enabled for you, those should automatically populate to this new system preference. As part of the upgrade process, this new system preference should automatically have the values it needs to continue using the shelving cart as you've been using it, if you've been using it. But let us know if you see any hiccup there, any interruption. And just one general note on this one, be careful with all. All really means everything. As this is set up right now, everything I check in is going to go to cart. This all cart rule really supersedes the display fic rule. And that wouldn't be the hardest thing to clean up if a bunch of stuff went to cart on accident, but better not to make a mess. All right, my next thing on my list is bug 17171. This is, oh wait, hold on. Before I go on, I don't think I mentioned that our previous value, or the update item location on Checkin, that was sponsored by our partners Arcadia Public Library, Middletown Public Library, and Round Rock Public Library. As I say Middletown out loud, I'm not sure if it's Middletown or Middleton. So apologies if I said it wrong. But that brings us to bug 17171. This is an enhancement that was also sponsored by Round Rock Public Library, so thanks again to Round Rock. This is to add a system preference to allow currently issued items to be issued to a new patron without staff confirmation. So let me find that system preference. Well, it's mad at me because I haven't saved my made up values I put in there. Auto return checked out items. So this is set to don't require librarians to manually confirm a checkout. That means if I've got a book checked out to one patron and I try to check it out to another patron, Koha is going to just do it. It's not going to make me click a little box to say, yes, I understand, I'm checking this out to somebody else. So let me grab a patron. Ooh, that must be his borrower number. Oh no, that's an item. Okay, I'm reading my notes poorly. Get all Hugo here. Oh, that's from the Lost TV show. I'm familiar. All right, so when I check this book out to Hurley, it tells me that this was checked out to Bob Belcher. It has been returned automatically. So previously, this would have popped up a little box that said, this is checked out to Bob. What do you want to do? If you turn that system preference to don't, it does not make you confirm anything. It just checks it out. So be careful with this if this is a thing you turn on, because if that book had been overdue or lost, like something could be happening on Bob's account right now. So just, keep an eye on it. Don't flip this syspref willy-nilly. This also comes up for checkouts where something was on hold for another item or another patron. So this basic flower painting has been on hold for Elizabeth Bennett. Or if I have, oh yeah, shush. I check out an item that was lost. It just tells me this thing was lost. It's not lost anymore because you've checked it out to somebody else. So it's really letting me zip through those checkouts much more easily, but it puts a lot on me to sort of keep an eye on what's going on. So I know I'm tracking the status of all those items and checking in on those other patron accounts if I need to. Ben asks, how will SIP treat this system preference if users are using self-checkouts, for example? That is a good question we're going to need to test, but my guess would be that they will just check out on SIP because Koha is not trying to give any sort of error or try to block that checkout. But yeah, let us check that, and we'll put that in our notes on the website. That's a good question. All right, next thing on our list is bug 21754. If an item is marked as lost, any outstanding transfers upon it should be automatically canceled. So this is a good one. If we have an item that is lost, oh, like poor blue shoe. This book has a couple things going on. It is lost and it is also in transit. Oh, I'm sorry, no. It's in transit, it's about to be lost. So previously, if I had a book that was in the middle of a transfer and I marked it lost, that transfer hung around as incomplete, which is not great. Really, if that book gets lost, you don't need to remember that it was on its way to such and such a place. So now if I grab this item and I mark it lost, the transfer is automatically closed. It is just lost now. So this is helpful to any library that is regularly checking that transfers awaiting receipt list, so they can really keep an eye on what they should be watching out for in transfers, not getting that list cluttered up with stuff that is lost and really is not expected to show up. Got a handful more circulation stuff. There's a lot of good circ stuff in this upgrade. And for the next couple, I'm going to jump to a patron here and down to fines and fees. And the first two things I want to look at are changes to receipts. So let me grab a payment receipt. So this fee receipt and also the invoice template, if you have ever printed these out for patrons, these have both been moved so that they are now easily configurable as slips in Koha. Previously, all the information that's here and the formatting of it was just hard-coded in, and there was no good way for us to change how anything displayed here. But now this fee receipt and also the invoice are both templates in Koha that will allow us to edit them as we need to. So if I go to Tools, Notices and Slips, fee receipt, not email, sorry, print. This may not be the clearest thing in the world if you don't read HTML particularly, but this is the code that makes that receipt. Previously, this was hard-coded. Now it is here so we can easily change whatever we need to change. So if you want different values or different formatting on that receipt, feel free to jump in here or open a ticket and let us know. Martha first asked, is this part of the email that gets sent when a patron makes a payment? No, this is separate from that email. That email, And Laurel, I see your comment, and we'll loop to that in a second. The email that folks get when they make a payment, that is this account payment slip. I should say account payment notice. So that's a separate bit of text, also editable from here.
Andrew, sorry, quick question. Does this template only exist as a template toolkit, correct? It does not work with the angle brackets?
This account payment one, that is true. Yep. So if you look at what's in this notice, instead of using the little double alligators, instead everything is marked with this square bracket %sign. That's template toolkit, which is just a different markup language. We have some blog posts about template toolkit and sort of how it works, and some links to the wiki page about that. It's pretty similar to the double alligators, just a little bit different. Now, Laurel said, does this mean we can issue invoices out of Koha by email now? No, not exactly. You could absolutely, back here, I'm looking for just a, well, all right, so this lost item charge, I could take this and reformat it in a way that would email nicely and copy paste it into an email. There's not a way to, if I'm in a patron, create a manual invoice and tell that to send to email. Koha just doesn't have the connection from here to the email sending capability. Well, now Marty's jumping ahead. Marty asks, not even with the email from reports? You could do it with the email from reports. That's a little ways down our agenda, so let's get to that. That's an exciting one, and we'll talk about that more. Next thing on my list, so that was the fee receipt and invoice. Next up is bug 20436, which I'm really not going to be able to show you in any meaningful way. But this adds the ability to specify item types for long overdue. So we know Koha has a mechanism to automatically mark stuff as lost when it's a certain number of days overdue. That's what it calls long overdue lost, where we say, okay, when something is more than 30 days overdue, set it to this lost value and charge the patron. We already were able to, if you need to really specify that behavior, we were able to make it differ by branch code. So for a multi-branch system, if those branches want to behave differently, and by patron category. If some of your patrons get their stuff automatically marked lost at 30 days and some get that at 90 days, we are now able to also make that behavior differ by item type. So if you want to say my DVDs go lost and get billed to the patron at 30 days, but books go for 60 days, this gives us a ton more flexibility, whether that's just exempting some item types from long overdue lost entirely, or setting up different rules for different item types to hit those time increments differently. This is really exciting, and I think lots of folks have asked for it. It's going to give us some good customizability. It does need to be set up actually on your server in your cron jobs. So if that's a thing you want to use, you won't be able to set that up here in your system preferences. That's something you'll have to open a ticket for, and we'll take care of it for you on your server. Jumping back to Lima Bean here, I have a couple more accounts things. First off, make that thing go away. I don't know if you all noticed, but some of my tabs have different words on them. So this used to say fines. It is now relabeled as accounting because it's not just fines, it's also fees and credits and other various stuff. This used to say, I believe, pay fines. Now it says make a payment. I believe transactions was account. So just general changes here to make these things a little more accurately labeled. Excuse me. And speaking of taking payments, my next bug, 11373, has added a little feature here. If I want to pay some of this fine, notice it's asking me, just as it used to, how much of this are they paying? $5 of it. And it is now also asking, how much are you collecting from the patron? So if this patron is paying $5, how much money did they just hand me? Let's say they gave me a $20 bill. And then for those of us who never worked a cashier job, it makes change for us, which I like. I shouldn't say I never worked a cashier job. I've never really had to make change in a high pressure situation. So I'm thankful to have Koha give me that math. When I hit confirm, it gives me a little pop-up to say, okay, you're going to give this patron $15 back. Okay. So this is part of a general move toward Koha doing some more work for places that don't necessarily run a full cash register. Marty asked, can that be pulled up in reports to run down errors in drawer balances? It cannot. That data does not get saved anywhere. We're not remembering what the patron gave and how much change you gave back. We're just remembering the amount they actually paid. Yep, if we look here, we can see this fine has gone down by $5, but there's no record there of what was recorded. And then Marty asks, are the fields required to take payment? By default, no. Actually, yeah, it's going to make me put something in collected from patron because it's going to put in a 0 if I say nothing. Now I'm just curious. It assumed I paid the whole amount. That's a wise assumption. We could make those required, I'm sure, with jQuery. Since I know back on this page, I've seen libraries that have made payment type required. So we could also, I'm sure, use jQuery to make collected from patron required, make it check that it's not a 0 value.
So Andrew, we have a question of, is there a preference for having this on or not? And that is not a system preference, that is just there. You can see the default behavior set though, is that if you do not put anything in there, it's going to automatically presume that it's you're collecting the amount that's being paid.
Yeah, you can absolutely just ignore it if you want to just ignore it. We could probably just hide it with jQuery.
So
test that to be certain.
Really convenient that you said that, Andrew, because George has also posted that he could make that disappear with jQuery, and we'll write it and post it to the wiki for anyone who wants it.
Thanks, George.
George.
Yeah, since it is defaulting to just matching the amount being paid, I'm not going to swear it wouldn't do something weird if you hit it, but it seems like it would be fine. All right, my next thing for patrons in circulation, I'm going to jump to this checkout tab where we have some secret new buttons. Secret's probably a little strong. They're kind of gray on gray there. They're inobtrusive. But the one that has a little picture of a printer is our new print, slip, and clear screen button. So we know that if we're in Koha, we're checking stuff out, have our cursor in the checkout box, and we just hit enter, it will print a slip for us. But then it leaves us on this patron. So our new little checky button, if I click this, it's going to actually print that slip and, yes, but not really, computer, and back us out of that patron. to make it real easy to just get that patron information off the screen at the end of each checkout. Make sure that we're moving on to the next patron and not continuing to check out to the wrong person. There's also the little X here to just clear the screen. That already existed, but the print and clear button is new. I need 2 more circulation things. The next one, I need to go to a different patron to show you. Lucy Van Pelt, who has somehow gotten herself into trouble. Because her account is locked. This message actually is the message that you get on an account when they have been locked due to too many attempts to log into the OPAC. I'm blanking on the specific system preference name, but there's a preference you can set to say patrons should be locked out of their accounts if they have given the wrong password too many times on the OPAC. That did not.
I was going to tell you the system preference, Andrew. I apologize.
No, go for it.
Failed login attempts.
See, I could have remembered that one. That was pretty straightforward. Oh, Kate asked about the print button. Does this just do the quick print slip? Yes, it does the quick slip. I don't know if that's a thing we could force to do the regular slip.
Wait, what's the middle one? What's the middle print? Is that quick slip? I think it does the print slip, or does it?
Or does it follow? Because there is a system preference that asks which one to do. We'll play with that, Kate. We'll get back to you. It's probably better than just me making something up. All right, so Lucy Van Pelt tried to log into the OPAC too many times, got her password wrong too many times, and her account has been locked. This didn't used to show to us on the staff side. This was just something the patron had to sort out. Because her account has been locked due to failed password attempts, we can fix that just by clicking the change password link and giving her a new password. She could also fix that herself with the forgot password link off of the OPAC, if you have that enabled. But if she calls us and say, I've been locked out of the OPAC, what we want to do is use the change password button. And just because I say this at every opportunity, make sure you're using the change password button to change passwords, not the edit button over here. We could theoretically edit the account and change the password from the edit screen. That doesn't give us all the nice fancy logging and password unlocking that the change password button does. So change password button is your friend. And then my very last circulation thing is actually going to be over on the OPAC. And this is bug 15505. Mark hold items on hold instead of available. Which means when I'm in the catalog, it will correctly tell me that this book isn't here because it's on hold, rather than incorrectly telling me that this book is available. Now, this would be for a book that is not checked out, but on hold for somebody, actually at the hold shelf. This is a development that was also sponsored by the Middleton Public Library. So thank you to them. All right, that's all of our circulation stuff. Now it's time to delve into the wonderful world of acquisitions. And our first thing in acquisitions is a really nice little addition sponsored by our friends at NACLS, the Northeast Kansas Library System. This is bug 5770, email librarian when purchase suggestion made. This is going to make a lot of people very happy, and I am happy for them. So what this means is we can now set Koha to automatically email us every time there's a new purchase suggestion, instead of relying on us going to that Koha homepage and noticing the little notification. We can make it proactively email us to say, hey, go look at your purchase suggestions. This behavior is governed by some system preferences. Email purchase suggestions asks, all right, I'm going to email these to you. Which address should I send them to? None. Email of branch, email address for suggestions, or Koha admin. So we're set to email address for suggestions, which means use whatever I put in this box. So as soon as somebody generates a new purchase suggestion, it sends an email to training@Bywater Solutions, and we know to go look at it. Note that this can go by branch, so if you've got multiple different libraries all handling their own purchase suggestions, you could set that to email address of branch, and it will go to the branch that that patron is from.
So Andrew, we do have a question about that with, can we send multiple emails for the departments? And we cannot send them for departments, only for the branches.
Right. That's not what I want. That's not what I want either. There we go. Kelly space M. And of course you could, Koha's gonna generate one email to one address. You could set that address to then forward those automatically if they needed to go to multiple people. If we look in Kelly's notices, well, this doesn't show up here, does it? That makes sense, because it didn't go to Kelly.
We also do have a question of what email is sent. Is that configurable in the Notices and Slips tool?
It is. I've forgotten what it's called, but we can identify it quickly here.
New suggestion.
New suggestion. Yep. So that's configurable there. To process is one that I'm going to mention because we're here that I don't know if a lot of folks use. If you have your different fund codes in acquisition set up with fund owners, this to process email will send when a purchase suggestion is assigned to a fund. So if you had some system where someone goes in first and says, this is a kid's book, it will charge to this fund. This is an adult book, it will charge to this fund. That gets you emails to specific staff members based on where this book goes, who's going to pay for this book. But that does require some workflow around it to sort of make that do what you want it to do. And speaking of fiddly acquisitions data, that takes us next to bug 15774, additional fields for baskets. So this is giving us the ability to custom define fields for our acquisitions baskets to save whatever sort of information we want to save, which is great. It's just sort of open-ended, whatever you want, whatever you need to know about your orders. So let me grab just a vendor and a basket. Basket additional fields. We've got a few set up here. Notice these can use authorized values if you want them to. We can say, yes, this basket is verified. Andrew's buying it. It's for department, culinary school. Whatever values you want to set up here, whatever it is helpful to you to label your baskets with. That setup happens over on the administration page. Additional fields way down toward the bottom on the right-hand side. This actually, additional fields contains the new acquisitions additional fields and also the existing serials additional fields. So you'll set up separate additional field values for the two. So here's my order baskets, where I have 3 additional fields defined so far. I could make more. I could tie them to an authorized value and define whether or not they're searchable within acquisitions. So if I go back to acquisitions and do a search, these additional fields that I marked as searchable are available as a searchable value here. I can say, show me everything set to Department Culinary School. That was just today, and there's nothing. So that's a lot of nice new flexibility. If you're wanting to get at these additional fields via reports, I don't know if you've ever had the fun of writing a SQL report that looks at like patron additional attributes. It's a slightly complicated join to get those tables together. We'd be happy to help you with it. The ability to define and manage those additional fields is its own new permission in users. It's called edit subscription or order. Well, that's the 2 of them. Let me look at a patron rather than reading notes. I can show you a fun thing while I'm there anyway. Look how much shinier the patron permissions are now. Oh, they're so readable in a table even. Of course, now I've said that and I have to find the thing I'm looking for. Additional fields, manage additional fields for baskets or subscriptions. So it's in there amongst your admin settings. Okay, for my next acquisitions thing, I'm going to go back here, and this is related to purchase suggestions again. So let me look at my suggestions. And I need to have one of these accepted because I want to put it into a basket. So got that, and let's just put something in here. We're going to add to a basket from a suggestion. And this one, sure. And notice it has pulled more information in here than it used to. Let's see, where is it showing it all? It has pulled in my library, my fund and my price. It has not pulled in quantity because this basket is set to create items on order, so it is still making me actually make those item records. If my basket were set up to not create item records, it would pull that quantity in automatically. So this isn't a very flashy enhancement, but it is making the process of ordering from a suggestion a little bit easier. All right, next up, I want to show you something related to notes on orders and baskets. Yeah, leave that alone. And grab an example item here. So I'm going at this a little backwards. Let me start over here. All right, so I've got my existing order, my basket in which I ordered a copy of Fatal Grace by Louise Penny. And on my order, I put in an internal note and a vendor note. Previously, Koha let us put these notes in here, but they didn't do a particularly good job of following us through the rest of the acquisitions process. That's been changed, so these are going to show to us all the way through receipt. So if we see them in our basket here, here's the invoice on which this book was received. And we see our notes, our internal note and our vendor note here on receipt. And we also see them here on the item itself. So really a much better job of, if we put that information in, it's going to continue to be present and obvious for us all through the ordering and receipt process. Marty asked, can we pull in vendor notes via EDI now? In the past, there was no bucket for it. That is a good question. I don't know.
I don't know either. We can find out.
Yeah, that seems broadly doable, but the fact that it hasn't been doable thus far, maybe there is some complication there I'm not imagining. But yeah, let's look into it and get back to you. And actually, while I'm here on this page, this is actually the next thing on my list of bugs. Bug 18952, show internal note in acquisitions detail tab. This is that same note from our order, this internal note, but it also pushes to here so it's visible in the catalog. Oops. For my next acquisitions thing, I want to go here to my list of baskets for a vendor and notice that I've got actually some more options on my actions bar over here. I can, right from here, close this basket. This is nothing but saving us some clicks, and I love saving some clicks. Previously, I would have had to go into the basket and then close the basket from here. Now, if I am on this page and I know I'm done with this basket, I can just close it right from here. Gotta love those little ease of use things. And then our last acquisitions enhancement is bug 22556. Add ability to quickly filter funds and budgets by library on the acquisitions homepage. That is this little feller. Would you like to only see orders for the main branch? Oh, that's not a great example on this site. There aren't any. But gives you a nice, easy way to, where do we order all of our books on this fake site? East Branch, I guess. Gives you a nice, easy way to filter that down and see your acquisitions data in a little bit more detail. Okay, the next thing on my agenda, it might be the one I am most excited about out of all of 1905, and that is Mana. I don't know how much you all have heard about Mana, which I think actually is properly pronounced Mana. So let me try that again, Mana. This is a new data sharing tool through Koha that is going to let us share between libraries across the whole Koha user base, both serials subscription data and reports. It will do more than that eventually, but right now it's starting with just reports and serials subscription data. So let's look first over in administration where Mana gets set up. So again, on that right-hand side, pretty far down, share content with Mana KB. KB is a knowledge base, I think, if I'm getting my acronym right. So there is a little bit of setup that needs to happen on your server to make Mana work. We will do that for you as part of your upgrade process. So all you're going to need to do to turn this on your site is come here, flip this to yes, decide whether or not you want your subscription patterns from serials to automatically share. And if you leave this unchecked, you still can manually share things, it just won't automatically share. So flip that to yes and save. And then, I can't show you this because I've already done this part. But when you come here for the first time, this little box here will ask you for your name and your email address, which it's going to send to the Mana server and use to generate you a token. It will automatically put that token into this site for you, so it'll be just ready to go. So you'll put in your name and email, you'll get an email back from Mana, you'll click a link out of it, and that is it. It puts the token in here and you are ready to go. It's very easy. Be aware this token, the name and email address it uses for this token ties your whole Koha site to that name and email address. So use something that is for your library, not for yourself. But once that's set up, you are good to go to start sharing and downloading both subscription patterns and reports. I'm going to talk first about subscriptions because that's what's next in my agenda. Oh, Christine has a question about previous bug. So this is 17171. That was the, if something is checked out to one patron, go ahead and check it out to another without asking any questions. And she asks, will it check out directly to new patron if there is a hold on it or only if not properly checked in? It will check out directly to the new patron if there is a hold on it. And then for that same one, will SelfCheck go through smoothly? Do you mean the Koha SelfCheck or a SIP SelfCheck?
So while Christine is answering that one, George has a question about setting up Mana on the test server. And for all of you eager folks out there, yes, do let us know if you want to do that. We do need to do some configuration on the back end before you can go ahead and set that up. So if you do have a test server, if you are an early adopter or anything like that, let us know and we'll go ahead and get that stuff set up, the back end set up for you for Mana.
And Christine, for your question about self-checks, I don't think we've tested either of those. I know we have not tested it for a SIP-based self-check to make sure that that new feature will allow that to go through. Unless Donna or Kelly knows for sure, I would say we'll also test the Koha self-check and see how that does. My guess would be it will check out without issue.
It should check out without issue, but again, it's something we have not verified. So we will definitely put that to our testing plan.
Wendy asks if Mana works for a consortium. Yeah, it will. With the caveat that, again, this token, to get this token, you're going to need to give it a name and an email address, and that's going to be used across your whole Koha install. So just going back to Neckles, because that was the last consortium name that I said aloud. Neckles is a whole bunch of libraries across northeast Kansas. They can use Mana, no problem, and you can pull that data in, but anything they share into the Mana database is going to be marked as coming from northeast Kansas, not anything more specific than that. All right, so once this is turned on, I'm going to jump over to serials. And the first thing we'll see is this little new Search on Mana link here. This allows us to do a search to see what subscription numbering patterns are already saved on Mana. As of right now, you'll notice that most of the subscriptions we have in there are actually in French. So Mana was developed by a French company, and they've put values in here. We actually pulled a bunch of subscription data and also reports data from several of our partners and sent that into Mana, so that should be showing up soon. Hopefully by the time any of you are on 1905, subscriptions and reports will already be populated with a bunch of good English language and sort of US library focused content. And then as more users come on and they start sharing what they have, it'll continue to fill out. So right now, for The Economist, we've got 4 French language numbering patterns and 1 English language. Although, this doesn't really do a lot. If I am here and I have verified that there is a subscription pattern in here for The Economist, there's no way from here to say, all right, set that up for me. We need to do that a little bit differently. So I'm going to back up a little bit. And start from here. So if I'm at The Economist and I'm setting up a new subscription, excuse me. No real changes here. This should look familiar to anybody who's fiddled around with serials much. I'm going to just skip all this stuff. And it's going to yell at me because I didn't set up a vendor or a grace period. Here's where stuff starts to change. So I'm actually showing you 2 things at once. First, we have the Mana stuff. And then we also have bug 22408 that has changed some of this page display. First off, it's just sort of centered on the page better. It used to be sort of weirdly lumped off to one side. So now it just looks prettier. It also, if I grab an existing numbering pattern and show advanced, this is a small change that I like a lot down here. All of these fields that are locked for editing are now grayed out and show a little padlock. So it's clear that I cannot change those unless I modify my pattern. And now it's making a new pattern and it's letting me change all those values. So just a little bit of clarity of what it is and isn't letting you do. Excuse me. But the big exciting reason why I came here. Notice it says up at the top, subscription found on Mana Knowledge Database, Mana Knowledge Base. This is searching by ISSN. So I started from a record that had the correct ISSN for The Economist. And when I got here, it found that ISSN in Mana and says, I've got a subscription. I can show those results. It's got 2. I'm going to pick the one that's in English. I have an option here to report this. If that subscription pattern looks bad to me, like it's not going to work, I can always report it to get it removed. I know the community is working on developing some infrastructure for Mana, figuring out who's going to be in charge of curating it, exactly how that process is going to go of making sure that everything that's in there is good. If that is a thing you all want to be involved in, that would be a great role for somebody to jump in as a sort of community watchdog there to help that Mana infrastructure project to make sure it all kind of comes together nicely. But if this one looks good, I'm gonna import it. And that takes my numbering pattern, fills it all out for me. it saves this new numbering pattern on my site. So it's mine now. It's in my Koha. I still do need to fill out a little bit here. The stuff that is really particular to my subscription. But otherwise, it has done this for me. So when you get into those really weird titles that take you some time to figure out exactly what that numbering pattern should look like, going forward, you can check first at least to see if some other library has already solved that problem for you. Save yourself a little bit of headache. Now that takes us to reports where there is more Mana goodness. So let's go.
Wait 1 second.
Yeah.
We do have a question about that field lock feature, Andrew. Does this work on other screens, such as item edit screens, when a user does not have edit permissions?
No. So this change was specifically just to this page to mark those things with padlocks when you can't edit them. It would be possible to extend that feature to other parts of Koha, and that would be a pretty reasonable enhancement request to put on Bugzilla to suggest that, yeah, that it could check patron permissions and put little padlock marks on stuff you can't change. But right now, it's not doing that across Koha. That was specific to this page. All right, reports. We do not yet have a handy link right here to grab a report from Mana. I know that Kelly just filed a bug asking that a link be put here, so eyes on this space. We'll see what happens. But for right now, I'm going to go into my list of saved reports so that I can click this new report button and say, I want a new SQL report from Mana. This is going to do a keyword search across all the reports that are there. Let's go accounts. Well, that's a pretty short list. Let's take the S. Oh, that's better. And that finds us all the reports currently on Mana with account somewhere in the report name, the notes, or through the whole SQL query. So this could be, you could search for a word that it would be in the description of the report you're looking for. You could search for a specific field or table name that you want included in the report. So here's my list of reports. If I mouse over one of them, it does pop up a little pop-up window of the actual query. It's not the easiest thing to read. SQL tends to be a little tough to read if it gets it all complicated. But as I look through these, I'd say this is probably going to be mostly based on the name and the notes. Find something that looks like what I want. Yeah, sure, expired patrons. A list of expired patrons with the money they owe and their guarantor information. The reports that are already here on Mana, this should be everything that is already in that Koha reports wiki page. The reports library, those have all already been loaded, as well as I said, we sent in reports from a bunch of our partners. So there should be a pretty healthy group of reports here already, and really, more things should fill out as possible. Kate asks, is it possible to share select reports with Mana, or is it all or nothing? By default, it is one report at a time. There is a tool we can use to grab all of somebody's reports and send them all to Mana, but really the expectation is that you're going to share one thing at a time. Let me grab this one and import it, and then we'll look at how we send things. Yes, Kate says cool, so they can hide their embarrassing mistakes. Yes. And that's, again, like with subscriptions, it's a conversation we've been having about how exactly are we going to curate those? How are we going to make sure that the reports that are there work? Just generally, like the SQL is good, and also make sure that they're not so specific to the library that they came from that they wouldn't be helpful to somebody else. All right, so if this report looks good, I can import it. That automatically saves it to my site, and it is ready to go. Now, that said, we have been finding places where, like this, it's saved with a bad bit of spacing there. That's going to give me an error if I try to run this. So it is going to take a little bit of, let's edit this and just make sure my line breaks are all what they should be. This is where that code mirror color coding really comes in handy. Just let you see more reasonably at a glance where there is not a space, where there should be one. And that, I think that spacing issue is something we can get. Oh, so I didn't do a good job. That should be fixable pretty easily. What are you mad about? This is a fun party game. Who can spot it first? I don't think I really changed anything right there. Ron guesses it's the if null. It could be. Got the right number of parentheses. Some of that, yeah, it doesn't look right. Format, no, I don't know.
That it's order by.
Oh, there you go. Good eyes.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I even said the color coding should help, and it would have if I'd been looking better. George and Ron. Oh, and George said that. I missed it the first time George said it. Thank you for coming back with all caps. George and Ron get special prizes. So it is not giving me an option from here to share this report back to Mana because it came from Mana. But let me come back here and we'll grab something else. So right here from my action button from the saved reports list, I have a share option that will send this one report off to the Mana database. I do believe I also get that from here. Oh, no, I lied. No share button from here. The other thing I want to talk about with reports is something we've brought up before. We did a blog post in a Monday Minutes about it, and it is not exactly reports related. This is the change to the account type table that's going to relabel some of your existing fines. So I'm just looking for a report here. So prior to Koha 1905, all of your account lines entries for fine data got saved with the account types F, FU, and F4 for fines, fines updating, and fines forgiven. Folks pointed out that that was sort of a confusing mishmash of type and status. These were all account line entries for the type fine, and then needed to be further distinguished as fines for returned or unreturned or forgiven materials. So 1905 is changing that table structure to use 2 columns instead of 1. There will be a column for type and a column for status. Now I do need to find the thing that I'm talking about. Here we go.
So Andrew, report number 36 is the broken one.
I'm just trying to talk and click at the same time, and some days it goes better than others. So we've got a change there. So all of these things are going to be account type overdue with a status to describe whether that's a forgiven fine, a returned item, or an unreturned item. So again, that would be Overdue returned is what was previously FU. Overdue returned is what was previously F. And overdue forgiven is what was previously F4. These are nice changes. They make the data a little bit clearer. They are going to break a lot of reports. Simply because when this upgrade happens, all of your old find data is going to get translated to these new account type and status values, which is going to mean that if I take an existing report like this one here that looks specifically for account type F or account type FU, those values don't exist in Koha anymore in 1905. So if I run this report, it gives me no results. There were no fines collected this month with those account types because those account types don't exist anymore. That's an easy fix. This month's fine's fixed. We just need to tell it, instead of looking for F and FU, look for overdue, and maybe include that status column. So this is something we will be reaching out to partners about. We've been doing some digging on our end to figure out who's got reports using these old values so we can be prepared to fix those as you go to 1905. We can't really fix those reports ahead of time because the data won't be different until you upgrade to 1905. We could put the new report on your site, but it wouldn't get you anything until you get upgraded. So be aware that that's on the horizon. It's a thing we're looking at and we're trying to get ahead of. But if there are account reports that you need day one, as soon as you get upgraded, make sure you keep an eye on those. We should be reaching out to you about them. And you are welcome to go in there and fix them yourself. Don't feel that you need to. That is a thing we're happy to help with. All right, and that brings us to cataloging. For my first thing, I'm not actually going to go into the cataloging module. I am going to pull up a book. Oh, not a patron. Oh no, Kelly. It's broken. We'll just get a book about Kelly.
Okay, it's a good idea.
So this new feature is related to the attach item feature. So this is what we use to take an item from one record and move it to another record. So I'm going to take the true history of the Kelly gang and move to it this barcode. Okay. Oh no, my example wasn't good. Hold on.
Okay, I have another barcode.
Okay.
82734.
Thank you. There we go. That's what we wanted. Koha steals the item from that other bib, and it is now helpfully telling us, hey, this other record, trees, it doesn't have any items left. You stole its last item. Do you want to automatically delete it? This is super handy. If you're moving items around, it keeps you from leaving these poor orphan bibs hanging around your catalog. We'll say, yeah, ditch those trees. No more trees. It's all Kelly gang now.
So Andrew, we do have a question.
Yeah.
Will this also delete the biblio if there are unfilled requests on the record you're moving the item from?
That is a good question. I don't think we tested that specifically. I'm going to wager on yes, but we'll verify.
I remember testing it, and I remember it stopping me, but I don't have the authoritative answer, so we will definitely double check that.
Okay, we'll see who wins. I'm gonna go with Donna on this one because she sounds like she's actually tried it. This feature to automatically delete that record if it was the last item, it was sponsored by the Arcadia Public Library and the Middletown Township Public Library. So thanks to them. Next up, it's going to take us back to patrons and permissions. And pardon me, my cat is trying to eat my cough drops. Oh no. So we want permissions and catalog. There is now a separate permission here for the advanced cataloging editor. So if we want to say, Lucy Van Pelt, we're going to let her do some cataloging, but not in the advanced editor. We don't trust her with that. I think it's probably more likely the advanced cataloging editor freaks Lucy out. Let's not bother her with that. So if you've got some users who like the advanced cataloging editor and some who just don't want to see it, you have a permission now to allow or disallow that per user instead of turning it on for everybody.
And we missed a note in here. Neckles sponsored that.
Oh, thank you, Neckles. We did miss a note. I'll add that in right now.
And I have to say thank you for Neckles, because I am one of those people who the advanced editor terrifies me if I see it. Makes me break out back in hives like I was in library school. So I'm very happy not to see that anymore.
It does give you a little bit more ability to totally, break things.
Okay, I have tested this. And if you are attaching an item from a bib record that has a hold on it, it will delete the record and the hold.
Okay, so now we start the argument of if that's a bug or not then.
That's a good argument.
Yes.
I'm going to say yes too.
Okay.
I don't know, but if you delete bibs using the batch bib delete tool, it takes holds out. It deletes holds for you. Oh, fun arguments. We can all go argue on Bugzilla.
So Kelly, does it delete the hold or does it orphan the hold?
It's just gone. I mean.
So it doesn't show on the patron record either?
Oh. It must delete it. There's no hold on the patron's record for a non-existent book.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
All right. Our next bug here is, or next enhancement, I should say, is bug 22045. This is a change to the appearance of the regular catalog editor. So I've grabbed a book. I'm going to edit it. And notice that this all looks a little bit different. We've got our tabs for the first digit of the mark field, as we had before. And then within those, we've got smaller links for each individual field within that tab. This whole list floats as we scroll around through the record and makes it really easy to jump to specific fields from here without scrolling and scrolling all day long. So if I'm in the 600s and I want to get to the 650 in particular, 657, lets me jump around within that record a little bit more easily. I also particularly like the fact that that does float as I scroll through. So if I'm way deep down in one of these pages, because they get pretty long, I still have an easy ability to move from there to someplace else. Just read the next thing in my list and it made no sense. I had to read it 3 times. Okay, The next thing is cataloging, but it's cataloging setup. So it's taking us a little bit further into the guts of Koha over in our admin Mark Bibliographic Framework. A little change to the interface here. I don't know how many of you have spent much time in your framework setup. It's kind of a darker corner of Koha weirdness. But if we go into one of these to look at the Mark structure, we've had some nice relabeling of buttons here to try to make things clearer. Now for each individual field within our framework, we get more options off this little button. Edit the full, just the tag, edit the subfield, view the subfields, edit the subfields. So previously this had one subfields button that we went into then view or edit. This is just trying to, again, make this interface a little bit more clear for you. So I go edit subfields, takes me in here. All right, and with that, let's back slowly away from Mark frameworks and go look at something less scary in the tools. And the first thing I have in tools is about news. This is bug 22318, extend Koha news feature to include other content areas. I love the news feature. It's like one of the most just straightforward, this does good stuff tools in Koha. And it allows us now for the OPAC to put our news items in a couple new places. So previously, this area over here where it says Koha is awesome, this was its own little system preference called OPAC nav right, where you had to go in and put in HTML to format the content that you wanted here. This section is now controlled by the news feature. Koha is awesome is a news item that is showing up at OPAC nav right indefinitely. So this would allow us to create more news items to go in that same spot. Just like any other news items, we can say only show this for a certain period of time. So this is only going to show up today and tomorrow. It gives us this sort of simple word processing dealy-bob here to let us format that text a little bit more easily. Marty asks, is OPAC nav right completely gone in SysPress? Yes, OPAC nav right is gone. There is no more OPAC nav right. Anything that was there has been translated or will be translated into this new news item when you upgrade to 1905. So that instead of giving us that weird little system preference, we define our content here in news, and it shows up here. And again, that can be scheduled, that can be for a certain period of time, or it can be just there forever. Such a fancy library GIF. I need to stop watching it. Oh God, let me go. Our next thing in tools has to do with batch record deletion and batch record modification. You'll notice this page looks a little bit different because it is now allowing us to perform these features not just from an uploaded list, as we could do before, and not just from a list of numbers, which we could do before, but also from a list of records. So this will let us build a list and then use that list to either batch delete or batch edit items. So it's just an easier way to save that list of titles and then use it to push changes either through batch deletion or batch editing. A couple more OPAC related things that actually I'm going to show you through administration. So we're moving on from tools to OPAC. And the first change I want to show you, so two very similar things, so I'll do them together. These are bugs 10796 and 21890 that give us some customizability by patron category to password features in Koha. You know we have options in here to say whether or not your patrons get to change their password via the OPAC and whether or not they get to reset their password via the OPAC. In Koha prior to 1905, this was just the system preference applied to everybody. We now have the ability to make individual patron categories not follow that system preference. So this is going to be really nice for any library that uses authentication to let their patrons or their users sign into Koha using like a school database to authenticate against rather than authenticating against Koha. Those cases where someone's not really using their Koha password, so you don't want them changing their Koha password. You don't ever want them to change their password. You want them to just use the existing institutional credentials. So if you've got a library where most of your users are signing in that way, but then you've got some small subset of, like, say, community borrowers who do just have a normal Koha card, you could let those community borrowers change and reset their password on the OPAC without letting anybody else. So the individual patron category part of this lives in admin and patron categories. Just grab one of these here and edit it. So you've got some new drop downs here. Password reset in OPAC. Does it follow the system preference, or are we setting it specific for this category? Same thing for OPAC password change in OPAC. Do we follow the system preference, or do we set it something special just for this patron category? That password reset functionality was sponsored by the Virginia Tech libraries, so thank you to them. Now my next thing is on the self-check out module, so let me get Koha to take me there. Self-checkout. So if you're using the Koha self-check, it asks me for a card number. We've got some nice changes here, sponsored by the City of Portsmouth Public Library, that are giving us more information on this self-check page. Previously, all we could see were our checkouts. We can now also see from here, do I have anything on hold? And what fines and charges do I have on my account? We can't pay these fines, and we can't like cancel or suspend our holds from here, but we can see them, which is great, particularly for holds, particularly since it is giving me this nice big exclamation point to let me know that this thing is here. It is waiting for me. So if I'm at the self-check about to grab some other books, I could see this and say, oh, wait, no, I need to go talk to somebody about my hold. I need to pick this thing up. And then just a side note that didn't make it onto our agenda for this one. But we've also, I'm excited, have a new ability to make Koha make a happy little noise when it successfully checks a book out from the self-checkout. Should grab a barcode. I look misspelled Batman. It's a bad day. Batman's pretty easy. I should get that right. Oh yeah, also Batman. I apologize for this interruption. I've been playing with audio alerts on our test site. If you want Koha to play the Batman theme song when Batman books come up, open a ticket. We know how to do it. Oh, I can't even check the book out. I owe too much money. I'm a bad library patron. Oh. Anyway, I've been playing with audio alerts and I'm excited about them. Come join me in the world of obnoxious audio alerts. Okay, so we've got two more things to round out our webinar here. They are both things that are going to resist being shown a little bit. The first, and they're both about notices. The first is bug 8000, test mode for notices. And this put in a system preference that says send all emails to, put in an email address here, and any notice that Koha generates will get emailed to this address. I'm super excited about this, which is why we're talking about it. But that said, I don't know how much any of you are ever going to use it. I think we're going to use it a lot. This is great for libraries that are just coming on board with Koha or wanting to test out some new notice. It would be very helpful to any of you who have a test site. It will let you run all those processes that generate notices and actually send them without sending them to any patrons, because they will just all go to whatever email address you have in here. So we've been using this on this test server, and our training account gets a lot of emails about holds for pickup and overdue items and things. But we don't actually ever accidentally send something to a real person. And then the last thing in my list today is bug 16149, generate and send custom notices based on report output. So if any of you have ever used the Koha Patron Emailer plugin, this is a plugin that we've had for a while that lets you basically generate a form email to a whole bunch of patrons. This new feature takes that same functionality and bakes it into Koha. It makes it actually a cron job that we could set up for you. It's just a little more built in. And what it's going to do is take a report and a notice and let you schedule a cron job to bring those two together. So I've written, just as a demonstration, report, oops, wrong button. Patrons who owe a lot of money. So here's people who owe more than $5 or $50. And then also I have generated, I need to go to tools and notices. A custom notice that I call Big Fine, because give something a dumb name if you're giving it a custom name. That says, dear first name, surname, you owe us money. Please pay us. So what the cron lets us do is say, take the contents of this report, feed that into this form letter, and these bits of template toolkit, those names are corresponding to the column names over in my report. So first name, surname, total fines. It's going to take that and send it like it would any other notice. It will, for each line in the report, it will generate an email to this email address and send that off. So the patron emailer did the same thing, but the big benefit of having this built more into Koha is we can have a lot more functionality here in what our notice says and how our notice is formatted, and we can also just save that notice and use it over and over again. We could set it up to send on a regular schedule, like this set of emails to people who owe a lot of money. Maybe you want to send that every month. Every month, anyone who owes you more than $50 in fines automatically gets an email saying, this is how much you owe us, you need to pay. Or I suppose you could find happier reasons to do that. You could send an email every month to patrons who've been good. Maybe I'm too much in a punitive patron mindset. So somebody mentioned earlier on the idea of generating an email invoice to patrons. You could absolutely write a report that would pull all of the information you need included in your invoice, set that invoice up as an email notice, format the email to include what your invoice needs to say, and then we could schedule that to run and send regularly for you. Or I should say we could schedule it to run and send once, Just it does need to be something we instigate from the server end. It's not something you can just click and run an email from the Koha end. But that brings me to the end of my list of what's new stuff. It's a big pile of what's new this go round. So please do let us know if you have any questions. We've got a little time.
So we have one question about this last feature. Can this be used to generate print messages as well, or email and print both?
It only does email. I'm trying to think how you could use that to generate a print notice instead. Not easily. But yeah, it's only email.
Thank you.
And I believe Kate's talking about the self-checkout display changes. These are not system preferences. These are just what comes.
Yep, it's just going to be there. If you really don't want that to show, I'm sure we can hide it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not anything you need to turn on.
Okay, and another question related to the auto check-in. Will it also check out items that are on the hold shelf? So again, you will get that pop-up message that confirms that that is a hold. So that will be the trigger. So no behavior. And again, remember, that is a system preference. So you can just not enable that. And you would just need to confirm every time you want to check something out that is already checked out.
All right, well, I'm going to just sort of vamp briefly in case someone's typing something right now. But as mentioned, this is the first of several webinars. We're going to dive deeper into the other modules on later dates over the next 2 weeks. Those dates are all here on our upgrade webinar schedule. Oh, I see. I knew there would be another question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Elena asks, did you say we have to have you set up on our end the cron job? This is a long question for me to read out loud. Let me read it to myself first to make sense of it. So Elena asks, is this a thing we need to set up? And yes, even if you're trying to run that custom email, report to email just once, it's still something we need to run from the server end. So we can absolutely set that up for you, but it's not something you can just do yourself. So we've got another What's New tomorrow, and then we go into OPAC and Public Services, Patrons and Circ, Technical Services, and Admin over the next 2 weeks. I hope you can all join us. If you can't, keep an eye for recordings and Q&As. We'll have answers for some of the questions we couldn't get right off the bat today up on that website. Or I suppose if you want to come back tomorrow and watch Donna cover all this same material.
No, I'm sorry. It's actually Kelly tomorrow.
It's Kelly. Even better.
It's unfortunate I can't rearrange the agenda because I might want to put the Batman music halfway through to keep everybody awake during my...
Just put a big note. Don't accidentally look up a Batman book.
No, I think it was a good, like, wake up. We're still talking.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We will let you know when your site is coming up for upgrade, and let us know if you have any questions.
Thanks,
All.
Bye, all.
Bye.